everyone, it's me Christina and I'm back with some answers to questions that I've been getting for my book. Some of these are from people who don't understand eating disorders and want to learn more, and some of them are from people who have eating disorders but want to know about recovery. I'm going to go through them real quick because the answers are actually really long. I'm only going to answer, a paragraph of what I have written down. So if you want to learn more about any of the questions or any of my answers, you're going to have to wait until my book comes out and then buy it. I will let you know when I have a publisher and when the release date is. So let's start with, what are the symptoms of body dysmorphic disorder? Well, body dysmorphic disorder is a symptom where the person is unable to view themselves as they are. Preconceptions in the brain about a certain body part can make one perceive the part as uglier or bigger than it is. Examples of the symptoms could be seeing a small freckle as a giant mole, or seeing an emaciated stomach as fat or flabby. A common way for both the therapist and the patient to see their body dysmorphic disorder is through art therapy, for example, drawing a self-portrait and comparing it to a photograph. And is there such thing as an eating disorder in which you don't stop eating, but all you can think about is when you eat is if the food is going to make you fat? No purging, no nothing, just guilt and anxiety. Eating disordered thoughts, while not quite eating disorders, are more common than you think. I think of these thoughts as a social eating disorder mentality. They are the thoughts that most women and some men have occasionally, especially with society's ever-changing emphasis on good foods, bad foods, and good or bad body shapes. If this does not happen too often, I wouldn't worry. However, if you find that your thoughts and anxiety are becoming obsessive or overwhelming, I encourage you to see a doctor or psychiatrist for a professional opinion. How do eating disorders really affect people? This one is a big one. I typed out my answer and ended up having 3 pages, but again, I'm going to give you about a paragraph. Eating disorders affect people physically, neurologically, socially, and psychologically. From any approach, both anorexia and bulimia are lethal. With anorexia, you run the risk of organ failure, anemia, loss of menstrual cycle in females, infertility, osteoporosis, low blood pressure, abnormally low temperature, and the hair on the head can become thin and fall out, but there can be an increase in actual body hair on your arms and such, which is of a very fine and soft quality. The skin can be dry and the hands and feet can become cold and blue from poor circulation. The blood pressure can drop due to an inadequate body fluid levels, causing episodes of fainting, feeling dizzy, and palpitations. Some of these symptoms are secondary to anemia and blood sugar. And let me say real quick, it sucks when your heart is acting up and it's not working the way it's supposed to. I had irregular heartbeat when I was with my eating disorder, and all I could think about was, oh my god, when is my heart going to give out? And I go on to list even more physical symptoms and neurological symptoms, social symptoms, and psychological symptoms. The next question is, why does popular culture glorify unhealthy skinniness? To understand popular culture today, you have to understand how it was starting in the 1800s. Like, during the Victorian era, the ideal body type for women was plump, fleshy, and full-figured. They did wear restrictive corsets only to make their waists artificially tiny, while accentuating the hips and buttocks. These corsets also caused a variety of health problems with breathing and digestion. The reason they did this, to make their waist tiny while everything else was plump, was biologically, the ideal body shape has nothing to do with size. It doesn't have to do with how tall you are or how wide you are. It has to do with the waist. The ideal woman, in theory, has a hip-to-waist ratio of 0.7, or an hourglass figure. Hourglass, in this instance, is referring to the shape and not the width. The, milk glass shape. As you can see with the Victorian era, this is what the ideal was. The reason for this ideal is because a thin waist and wide hips signal health and fertility. Sorry, my phone keeps going off. I'm going to skip the next two questions, which are, do society and culture do anything to promote healthy rather than skinny? And what is a typical day during inpatient? I'm going to touch on that last one just a bit. I haven't actually been during a long-term inpatient residency. I did go to an intensive short-term inpatient facility, and they tried their best to make me eat and to make me stop purging. So after meals, I could not go to the restroom for, I believe it was 2 hours. And if I didn't eat, they would sit across from me in the common room and watch me until I ate something. So that was horrible. And then they had Inshore and Pediashore. That was just the scariest thing for me. But I haven't been to a long-term residency center, so I wouldn't know. But I will find someone who does know, and I will include it in this book. How long does it take to recover from an eating disorder? This one really varies from person to person. For me, after an intensive short-term facility treatment and inpatient treatment and outpatient, it took a month to stop starving myself, and about 3 months to stop purging, and about a year to stop binging. I'm still working on stopping negative comments and disordered thinking. For some people, it takes much longer or much shorter. I suppose it depends on your support team, whether or not you're doing it alone, and on your personal commitment to recovery. Again, I have more on this answer in my book, but I am going to move on to the next question. You say eat when you're hungry, but what if I'm not hungry? With an eating disorder, your digestive system can slow down, and that means it takes longer for your body to process food, so when you do eat something, you may not feel hungry for 6 or 7 hours, even though the typical body gets hungry after 3.5 hours. The important thing to do is eat every 3.5 hours, something small, and because that's when your blood sugar drops, and when your body gets used to food again, it will become hungry on a regular basis. Sorry. And I don't have enough money for hospital treatment or professional support teams. Do I have to do this alone? You definitely do not have to do this alone. If you have no money at all, and if your insurance isn't helping you, then you can rely on friends, you can rely on self-help books, you can rely on your family. There are loads of free resources for recovering from your eating disorder. And if you do have insurance, most insurance policies will pay for you can do a copay. For example, with my psychiatrist, the one who prescribes my medicine, usually they would have $175 or something for a session, and these sessions are 15 minutes long. But with the copay with my insurance, I only pay about $10-$20. With my psychologist, she doesn't work with my insurance, so I do have to pay about $165 every time I go, but I only go every 3 weeks or so, and soon it'll be every month, so I have enough time to save up money. What else? How can you tell when you've crossed the line from a healthy desire to lose excess weight to an unhealthy desire to become ever thinner? This is going to be the last question because I'm running out of time. And for for me, I can see now that I'm in recovery that I crossed that line when I was looking at supermodels and actresses like Heidi Klum and Megan Fox, and I was looking at them and I was like, oh my god, they're so fat, they're so thick. And you know, they're not. They're not fat or thick in any way. But my perception of perfect or normal was an emaciated body, a walking skeleton, and that's what I wanted to be. But that is not healthy. That is nowhere near healthy. Um, I guess I started with a healthy desire to lose excess weight when, I guess you can't call it healthy, but when I was 10 or 11 years old, I was weighed and I was 100 pounds, and being in the triple digits kind of freaked me out. No one told me I would be growing so fast. Um, so I decided to go back to 99 or 98 where all my friends were, and that's when I first started dieting. And these diets were pretty simple. I ate healthy foods. I ate peanut butter and toast sandwiches. And it didn't get problematic until I got to middle school. And middle school, I started binging and purging, or, just purging. And I alternated between various behaviors every day. Okay, so that's all the time I have right now. I will return with more questions and more answers at a later time. So subscribe, give me a comment, leave me a message. If you have a question about eating disorders or eating disorder recovery, please let me know, and I will do my best to